I want to tell you something before I get into this race recap. I didn't finish first. I didn't even finish close to first. I walked some of it. My pace was my pace. And I stood at that finish line and felt emotional anyway. Not because of the time, not because of the pace, not because I had some dramatic movie moment where I suddenly became a different person, but because of what it took for me to get there. So this isn't really just a race recap. Yes, I'm gonna talk about my May 5K. I'm gonna talk about race morning. I'm gonna talk about the course. I'm gonna talk about what felt good, what felt hard, and what I learned. But really, this is a video about what I found out about myself while I was on that course. Because sometimes the finish line is not even the biggest part. Sometimes the biggest part is realizing, oh, I really am becoming somebody I could trust. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Shay. I'm on a journey to become financially fit, build discipline, train for races, and become the kind of woman who follows through on things she says she wants. Not perfectly, not always gracefully, sometimes with a messy gym bag, a budget that needs a reset, and a body that's like, girl, are we really doing this? But we are doing it. This week, we're talking about my May 5K. This is one of those races where the recap is not just, I ran, I finished, here's my time. Because honestly, the time was not the main character. The main character was the training block, the doubt, the weeks where I didn't feel like I was doing enough, the part of me that still wonders if I belong in these spaces sometimes, and the part of me that keeps showing up anyway. So let's talk about it. Going into this race, I had an idea of what I wanted my training block to look like. In my head, it was gonna be very cute, very consistent, I have my life together. I hit all of my runs, I was gonna strength train, I was gonna fuel properly, I was gonna sleep like a responsible adult. I was gonna be one of those people who lays out their clothes the night before and then wakes up with a sense of calm. And then real life was like, that's adorable. Because the actual training block was not perfect. There were weeks where I felt good. There were runs where I was like, okay, wait, maybe we are building something here. But there were also weeks where I was tired. Weeks when work took a lot out of me. Weeks where my body felt heavy. Weeks where I had to talk myself into the run before I even got out of the car. And there were absolutely weeks where I looked at my training plan and I thought, this does not look like the version of training that I thought I was gonna have. And I think that's the part I wanna be honest about. Because it's so easy to talk about consistency after everything goes well. It's easy to make the recap look clean when you edit out all the days where you were struggling, but the real training block included the skipped runs, the slow runs, this was supposed to be 3 miles, but we're gonna call it at 2 runs. The days where I didn't feel motivated, the days where my body was like, we can move, but we're not performing. And I had to decide that those days still counted. That's been one of the biggest shifts for me as a runner. I used to think if the run didn't look impressive, it didn't count. If I wasn't fast, it didn't count. If I had to walk, it didn't count. If I didn't feel strong, it didn't count. But training for this race reminded me that the quiet miles still count too. The slow ones count. The ugly ones count. I almost didn't go, but I went anyway, ones count. And honestly, those might be the ones that got me to the starting line more than anything else. And this is where my brain immediately went to money, because apparently I cannot just run a race. I have to turn it into a whole life lesson. But the more I train, the more I realize that running and budgeting are basically the same exact skill. They look different. One involves sneakers and sweat. The other involves spreadsheets and me side-eyeing my DoorDash history. But emotionally, same skill. Because in both of them, plan never survives contact with real life. You can have the perfect training plan and then work gets busy. You get tired. Your body needs a rest. The weather is disrespectful. Your schedule shifts. And suddenly the week you planned is not the one you're actually living. The same thing with a budget. You can sit down at the beginning of the month and make the prettiest little budget. Everything has a category. Everything has a purpose. You're like, look at me. I'm mature. I'm financially fit. And then the car needs something, or my dog needs something, or you forget about a whole subscription. You had one too many convenience meals because life was just life. And now the budget does not look the way it looked when you made it. The old me would have used that as a reason to start over or quit or avoid looking at it. With running, I would miss a workout and think, well, the whole week is ruined. With budgeting, I would overspend a category and think, well, the whole month is ruined. And now I'm realizing, no, it's not. You don't start your training block over every time you miss a run. You just go back out. You don't throw away the whole budget every time one category gets messy. You look at it, adjust, and keep going. That is what financially fit means to me. Not perfect execution, not a perfect month, not a perfect race, but the ability to keep showing up after the plan gets interrupted. Because the plan is always gonna get interrupted. The question is whether you keep coming back. And that's what this 5K reminded me of. I wasn't standing at the starting line because I had a perfect training block. I was standing there because I kept coming back to it. And that might be the most important part. Race mornings was one of those mornings where I had to be very intentional about not letting my brain do too much. Because you know how race mornings can be. You wake up and suddenly every little thing feels like a sign. You're like, did I sleep enough? Did I eat the right thing? Do my shoes feel weird? Why does my body feel different today? Do I have to pee again or am I just nervous? Like, race morning really has a way of making you question your entire existence before 8 a.m. But I tried to keep it simple. I got dressed, I got my stuff together. I reminded myself that I was not there to prove I was the fastest person. I was not there to perform for strangers. I was there because I signed up. I trained as best I could, and I wanted to finish what I started. That was the goal. Not perfection, not proving anything, just finishing what I started. And when I got there, I had that moment I always have before a race where I look around and notice everybody else. People stretching, people warming up, people who look like they've been running since birth, people who look very relaxed, which personally I find suspicious. And then there's me, trying to stay calm, trying not to compare, trying to remind myself that I belong there too, because that is still something I actively have to tell myself. Even after doing multiple races, even after training, even after building this identity as a runner, there's still a part of me that looks around and goes, do I fit here? And then I have to answer myself, yes, because you're here. That's it. That's the qualification. You showed up, you're at the starting line, so you belong. Once the race started, I tried to settle into myself, not everyone else's pace, not the energy around me, not what I thought I should be doing, just me, my body, my breathing, my pace. And I just want to be honest. There were moments where I felt good. And there were moments where I was like, okay, we are working today. That's the thing about racing. Even when it's just a 5K, it still asks something from you. And I know people love to say just a 5K, but honestly, there is no just when you're the one out there doing it. There's no just when your body is working. There is no just when your brain is trying to convince you to stop. There is no just when you're doing something that requires you to keep going when it would be easier to not. At some point on the course, I hit that moment where it stopped being cute. The moment where the playlist was not enough. The moment where I had to stop thinking about the full distance and just focus on the next little piece. Make it to that sign, or make it to that turn, make it to that patch of shade. Just keep moving. And I think that's where something clicked for me, because I realized I was not waiting to feel confident anymore. I was not waiting for my body to feel perfect. I was not waiting for the race to suddenly feel easy. I was just doing it. And that sounds so simple, but it felt so big, because so much of my life I've waited to feel ready. Ready to run, ready to budget, ready to post, ready to start, ready to be seen, ready to take myself seriously. And on that course, I realized I may never feel completely ready, but I can still keep moving. And that is a very different kind of confidence. Not the confidence that says, this is easy. The confidence that says, this is hard and I'm still here. I also want to talk about what it felt like to be a curvy runner on that course, because that is a part of the story. I'm not saying that every single run is a dramatic, emotional experience about my body. Sometimes I'm literally just trying to get through the miles and make sure my shorts stay where they're supposed to stay. But there's something specific about being in your running space when your body does not always look like the stereotypical runner body. There's this little voice that can creep in and it asks, do people think I belong here? Do I look like I know what I'm doing? Am I being judged? Do I look too slow? Do I look tired? And I'm learning to let those questions exist without letting them lead, because my body may not look like what some people expect from a runner, but my body carried me through that race. My legs keep moving. My lungs kept working. My body stayed in it. And that matters more than whether I look like someone else's idea of athletic. I think one of the most healing parts of running for me has been realizing that my body does not have to be smaller to be capable. And it does not have to be faster to be worthy. It does not have to be more polished to be seen. I can be curvy and committed. I can be slow and serious. I can walk parts of a race and still be a runner. I can show up in the body I have now instead of waiting for future body to give me permission. And that right there, that is the part that makes me emotional, because this journey is not about hating myself into a different body. It's about building trust with the body I have, the one that gets me through the work, the one that gets me through the training, the one that gets me to the starting line, and the one that got me past the finish line. And for that, I'm grateful. When I got closer to the finish line, I started to feel that little shift. You know when you can tell the end is coming? You see people gathered, you can hear the noise change. Your body is tired, but your brain is like, oh my God, we're almost there. And I crossed the finish line. And again, this was not some big dramatic, I did the impossible moment. It was a quiet kind of emotional because I knew what it had taken to get here. I knew the weeks where I doubted myself. I knew the runs I didn't want to do. I knew the days where I felt like I wasn't progressing fast enough. I knew the part of me that almost minimized the whole thing before I even did it. Like,
it's just a 5K. It's not that big of a deal. Other people are faster.
And then I crossed the finish line and realized it was a big deal to me, and I'm allowed to let it be a big deal. I don't have to shrink my accomplishment just because someone else can do it faster. I don't have to talk myself out of being proud. I don't have to make it smaller to seem humble. I finished something I said I was gonna do, and that counts. After the race, when the energy started to settle, that is when I really felt it. Because race day has this movement, the music, the people, the bib, the photos, the finish line. But then there's the quiet after, the part where you sit with yourself and ask, what did that mean? And for me, it meant that I am becoming someone I can count on. Not because I never mess up, quite the contrary. And not because I always follow the plan, not because my discipline looks perfect, but because I keep returning. And I think that's the thing I'm most proud of. So what am I taking from this race into my next training block? First, I'm taking the reminder that imperfect training can still build something. I don't want to use that as an excuse to not try, because I do want to keep improving. I do want to get stronger. I do want to become more consistent. I do want to keep building my endurance. But I also don't want to dismiss the work just because it wasn't perfect. This training block taught me that showing up imperfectly is still showing up. And sometimes that's the thing that keeps the identity alive. Second, I'm taking the reminder that my pace is information, not judgment. That one is big for me because it is so easy to look at pace and immediately turn it into a story about who you are. This is slow. I'm behind. I should be better by now. But pace is not a character assessment. It is just information. It tells me where I am. It helps me decide what I want to work on. It gives me a baseline, but it does not get to decide whether I belong. Third, I'm taking the reminder that I don't need to wait to feel like a runner before I act like one. This is something I'm learning in every area of my life. I don't need to wait until I feel financially fit to manage my money like someone who is becoming financially fit. I don't need to wait until I feel disciplined to make the next disciplined choice. I don't need to wait until I feel confident to show up. The action comes first sometimes. The identity catches up later. And that is what this race felt like. It felt like my identity catching up to the choices I've been making quietly. Not always perfectly, but consistently enough to matter. So no, this is not just a race recap. It was not just a May 5K. It was not just a finish time. It was a reminder that I can do hard things without making them look perfect. That my body is capable right now. That walking does not erase the run. That a messy training block can still lead to a finish line. That being financially fit and being a runner are both built in the same way. By continuing, by adjusting, by coming back, by refusing to let one imperfect week become the reason you quit. And maybe that's the version of myself I'm actually becoming. Not someone who never struggles. Not someone who always gets it right. Not someone whose life looks perfectly put together, but someone who comes back. Someone who keeps the promise, even if she has to modify the plan. Someone who can look at the hard thing and say, I don't have to be perfect at this. I just have to keep going. That is what this May 5K gave me. And honestly, that's worth more than the time on the clock. If you've made it this far, thank you for being here. Seriously. I know this was technically a race recap, but if you're also in a season where you're learning to trust yourself again, I hope this felt like more than that. And if you're training for something, a race, a financial goal, a new version of yourself, a life that feels more like yours, please let this be your reminder that the imperfect weeks still count. The quiet work still counts. The slow process still counts, especially when no one's clapping for it yet. If this video resonated with you, make sure you like it, subscribe, and leave a comment telling me what you're currently training for. And I don't just mean fitness. What are you training yourself to believe? What are you training yourself to follow through on? What are you training yourself to stop running away from? I would love to hear it. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.